Hello, everyone, and welcome to our informational webinar about ELSO's Adult ECMO Certification Exam. Today, I'll be walking through the application process and sharing a little more information about our exam. I'm Elizabeth Moore, the Education Director at ELSO, and I'd like to first start off by opening our webinar by introducing Dr. Bishoy Zachary, who is our Chair of Education at ELSO. Dr. Zachary will be starting things off by sharing a little more about the value of certification. So Dr. Zachary, if you don't mind coming on video. Maybe.
It says it's disabled.
No problem. I'll go ahead, advance slide, and we'll work on the video for you.
Great, thank you very much. So I'd just like to share a small word about the importance of ECMO certification. So it's well known that there's been a significant growth in the number of ECMO course offerings, and yet no professional medical board or society offers standardized certification for all types of ECMO practitioners. While ELSO recommends that ECMO centers include staff training and individual certification of practitioners, a survey of US ECMO centers determined that only 57% actually had institutional ECMO credentialing criteria, and only 16% had recertification criteria. And so there is a need to establish a certification process for ECMO practitioners. As described by the Institute for Certification Excellence, such a process would outline the minimal knowledge and skills required to provide safe ECMO care. There are many benefits to offering ECMO practitioner certification. First, it ensures ongoing maintenance of competency of ECMO providers. Second, it allows for standardization of best ECMO practice across the different sites and disciplines. And third, it also establishes recognition of the unique skill set required for competent ECMO provision. Now, having developed a standardized and validated ECMO curriculum, ECMO certification is now both a possibility and the natural next step. And so I'll pass it back to Liz to walk us through this process.
Thanks so much, Dr. Zachary. All right. I love here getting technology right here for us to go. So the ELSO Adult ECMO Certification application is a three-step process. So I'm going to walk you through step by step and share a little more of what the review committee is looking for in terms of documentation. So hopefully for those of you on social media, you have seen this infographic that is out there to share to kind of give you the three-prong approach to how we're looking at this. So step one, when you are filling out an application, I'll go more into exactly how that looks, but we're interested in knowing a little bit more about your didactic experience. So what we're looking in there is, have you taken courses like our ELSO Foundations course? Have you done any of our virtual courses? Have you attended an ELSO hosted comprehensive simulation-based program? But also we recognize that there's a multitude of courses from around the globe that have been teaching ECMO training for many, many years. And so we also want you to submit that if you've taken a course outside of one of our ELSO hosted courses or ELSO endorsed courses, please submit information around that course that you participated in. So that's what we term step one. Step two is we want to understand about the simulation experience that you went through. So that again, some of the pieces that would satisfy those are some of our comprehensive simulation-based courses that we've done, as well as, again, a local course that you have participated in. And there's 5 essential sims that I'll go into that really are the foundational piece that we're looking for to ensure that you have been able to navigate the technical pieces of some of the ECMO emergencies we're looking for. Step 3 is your clinical bedside experience. So ELSO guidelines on training and education very clearly outline what our training and proctoring experience looks like, as well as what the minimums look like as you're going from your bedside, or excuse me, your training course and into your bedside experience. So with that, we're looking for a minimum of maybe hours, so 16 to 34 hours or a couple ECMO days. What I will specify in here is important to note that this is an ECMO Practitioner Certification exam. So this is intended for the ECMO team. So this could be physician, nurse, RT, perfusion, those that identify as key members of that ECMO team. And so when I say the difference between 16 to 32 hours, that's probably more, will resonate more with those that do bedside shifts versus days of coverage, which probably resonate more with physicians perhaps that cover days of ECMO in the ICU. So with that, we're looking for some type of attestation statement saying, you know, here's a little bit about what I did as my proctoring experience. I'm also achieving a minimum of number of hours over an 8-week, or excuse me, over a period of time over the year. So we're having a critical minimum that we're having that constant exposure to taking care of patients. And then overall looking for an average of around 56 hours or 8 days of ECMO patient care in the recent 6 months. So again, a quick overview. I think this does a good job of kind of sharing the picture of what we're looking for. And now I'll be going through the subsequent slides of just really what does this application portal look like for you to use, and give you some tips and tricks of ways to make your process seamless as you navigate that. So going into the application, so hopefully this website is all familiar to you. This is www.elso.org. So under the education tab, about midway down, you'll see this ELSO Academy online. This is where you'll go on and click onto this, our online menu. Once you get onto the online menu, either you'll create an account that you see below there, or if you've already previously taken one of our foundations courses or virtual courses, ELSO Academy is our learning management system for all your ELSO hosted activities that you've participated in. So if you've already been with us and taking courses with us, you're just going to use your regular login. If this is your first time taking any courses with us or interacting with ELSO Academy, then you go ahead and just create that account. So once you log in and you're into your site, this happens to be my dashboard, so I may have a few more things showing up than when you first log on. But what you can see there that is in the little arrow is you can see the ELSO Adult ECMO Certification. You're able to click on that and be able to get entry into that. There is no fee to go ahead and purchase, if you will, that application. So that piece, you just go ahead and click onto that tile. Once you click onto that tile, there's just a series of checklists, if you will. It's a 12-step process, but don't let that sound overwhelming. Some of them are very quick and easy opportunities to just quickly interact with. So this would be the first landing spot that you see. And this is really just giving you an overview of what our certification is and what our certification is intended to focus on. Information regarding this is also available on our website. So this is all available that if perhaps you're not quite sure yet, even after this webinar, and I've been able to talk you through this, that you just want a little bit more information, it is all available there on our website for you to read a little bit more about the certification process. And you're able to scroll through and have a full view of what this is about. So once then you've completed that phase, so if you can see some of the clickers on here, you click next, and then what it does is goes into the terms and conditions. In order to be able to view what the terms and conditions look like, they have that little tile at the bottom that says begin the test. Do not worry, you're not entering into the exam at that point. What that test is opening up the terms and conditions around what certification, a deeper look at what you're embarking on should you choose to move forward with the exam. Same story, you can scroll through and read through the language included in that. And once you have felt like you've retained all that information, you can go ahead and submit the test at the bottom, and that will allow you to complete that step. Once you've completed that step, we want to know a little bit about you as a practitioner to understand a little bit more about your background. And so we've created a survey that is going to give some basic information. Again, if you've taken courses from us before, we're very interested in understanding about our learners and and who is accessing and wanting education, which helps us really be able to think through what future opportunities and future courses are. So this information is very helpful for us as we plan for future opportunities. So once you go ahead and click to begin that survey, you will find a pretty simple, again, demographic pieces, general demographics that you would expect to see, just giving a little bit more information about yourself. Next up is that first big piece, which is that attestation of didactic training. So this is where we start beginning to dive into that step one of just kind of understanding your global experience of what type of education that you have received. And I'll probably say it a few more times, but really the intention behind us understanding your educational experience is that we are hoping to set you up for success. We recognize that this was the first international adult ECMO certification exam that's been created by a multidisciplinary team. I know that's a mouthful, but we really want people to be set up for success. And so we are really grabbing all these different components, recognizing what Dr. Zachary had shared is the existence of standardized education in the realm of ECMO has not existed. And so what we're trying to do is get a little bit more information and guide you down a pathway to help make sure that you're successful navigating the next pieces. If for some reason we find that there are missing elements in there, then all we're going to do is be able to work with you and send messages to try to help clarify a little bit more about what your background is. So once you begin that attestation, what it looks like is it's going to sit and ask you again a series of questions. So it's going to specifically ask if you've completed an ELSO hosted training course. So that would be any of the courses that you've seen that we've put on for the last 10 years, largely US-based courses for some of those hosted ones, and then ELSO endorsed training courses. And then as I referenced, other training courses which have encompassed the standardized learning objectives. And I'll get into a little bit more to make sure you are clear on what those are. Again, I will say in here, proof of training will be required to submit the application. And that is just for us to help as part of the review committee to make sure that the coursework that you have completed will help make sure that you are prepared for the questions that you will be seeing in the certification exam. And then as well, we have many of the, again, multitude of options. And this first, simple piece to advance is saying, yes, I have completed one of these pieces, or no, I have not. If you've completed an ELSO hosted or endorsed course, we want a little bit more information here on which one. This gives us a little bit more of a discrete data field to know exactly which course you had attended. Given the global nature and people who have taken courses from all over, this helps us really kind of identify where exactly you've received that education as we're reviewing the material. So it gives us some clarity on where you've taken your course. If you've not completed an ELSO hosted or endorsed course, but you feel as though the content you covered hit all the learning objectives, again, just share with us where you took that course and a little bit more information about what the name and location of the course. So next comes to that proof of attendance piece. So this is a download that is available to you. So what you do is you go ahead and when this pops up, you can hit to upload or download, excuse me, let me back up. This is our learning objectives reference sheet. I'm getting ahead of myself in this one. So this one actually is what I was saying, that you want to make sure that you've been able to review the learning objectives. So when we say that, have you attended a course that was not a ELSO hosted or endorsed, but you feel as though the courses that you have attended covered a wide array of topics? This next one will show you, and I apologize if you're on a very small screen. This will be a challenge for you to make out every little piece of it, but this is available on the application website. So you'll be able to download and have a PDF copy. So this is the core curriculum that we have been working on for the last several years that really drills down to 53 modules and 80 learning objectives. the importance of really making sure that your course that you have attended covered these topics is that these are the foundations of how we built the exam, and the exam questions were modeled off of these 80 learning objectives. Some of the questions maybe just hit one learning objective. Some of the questions, because of the National Board of Medical Examiners style, could hit several different learning objectives in their one question. And so there's huge importance that you make sure that you've reviewed this document and that the material that you have had exposure to in your didactic course checks all the boxes that all these have been covered. So then the next piece is the upload. So this is where I said I got ahead of myself. This is where you can go ahead and drop your file here to upload. And in this, really, it's helpful to have a couple things when you're uploading here. The agenda that covers the program that you attended, which includes learning objectives that were covered specifically, and a certificate of completion. If you attended an ELSO hosted course, certificate of completion is probably all that is needed, because we have record of all of our ELSO hosted courses for the agenda and learning objectives. But I put that out there that in our last month of having certification open, that's usually one of the biggest pieces that we have to go back to the applicant with, is making sure that we have all key elements in there. And so we've often found that just having a certificate of completion doesn't really help us understand about the breadth of topics covered. And so I stress in here that making sure you have agenda with learning objectives and proof that you have completed that course would all be appropriate documentation at this point. So then we go into, so that those attestations around the didactic, the upload, those all are what I consider what the team describes as step one. So now we're going to walk into step two, which is your simulation training experience. Again, you have a button to click that says begin your survey. And similar to what you just saw previously with the didactic, you will have an ability in there to see exactly what we're looking for. So if you've completed a course, we're looking specifically for the required ECMO simulations, which are drainage insufficiency, air embolism, pump failure, membrane lung failure, and gas failure. And again, I highlight proof of training will be required to complete this application. So at this point, we're asking you to read through. Do you feel as though you've attended a course that specifically has covered those 5 simulation experiences? Yes or no? Click to respond and you will advance to the next page. If you've attended this course, again, we just want to know which course you attended, whether it was an ELSO course or a course, a local course that you've participated in. And then we get to, again, the ability to drop your files and upload and be able to share. Again, ideally, we're looking for an agenda. We're looking for those specific learning objectives associated with the simulation lab, and those 5 sims in particular, being able to be spelled out that you've successfully navigated a simulation lab with those sims. All right, and then we move on to the attestation for bedside care. Again, similar to what you saw before. So the first piece in there is the required elements that we're looking for. And so we're looking for a minimum hours, so 16 to 32 hours of proctored bedside management, or 2 to 4 ECMO days, at least 1 8-hour shift of ECMO care in at least every 8 weeks. So this is just showing kind of repetitive exposure to ECMO, an average of a minimum of 56 hours or 8 days of ECMO patient care per year. And, you know, again, it's attesting, yes, I have completed that, and it's accurate that my bedside experience encapsulates in that. For this, we're looking also then, you know, an estimation. So in the last year, how many ECMO patients or hours have you completed? This is just a simple answer in there to respond to. How many ECMO patients do you typically manage in 1 year? And then getting into the upload. For this one, I think the biggest guidance I can provide for you that will help in what we're looking for is what some of the best practices I've seen that really help us understand the experience is one of two things. So one, a letter that's written by perhaps the medical director or ECMO coordinator of a program. I recognize that some of you sitting for the certification exam are one of those people. So having a member of your hospital leadership that would sign off and attest that you really have had those key pieces. And so what I've seen is some beautifully written letters that outline the breadth of experience that someone has, and what types of patients they're caring for, and what type of volume that they see each year, and in what capacity that they manage those patients. Also, what I've seen in an upload form that has been helpful is a CV that really kind of outlines your exposure to ECMO patient care. So once you get through and you're able to navigate step 1, 2, and 3, so you've submitted what you've done from a didactic perspective, you have submitted what kind of simulation experience that you've had. And I will pause with that simulation point is that we are really looking for an immersive simulation experience. And I mean that by an opportunity that you have been able to have direct interaction with navigating those emergencies. I recognize there's several really great workshops that give an opportunity to have more of a demonstration. So maybe there's a large room that ECMO pumps are in and people see the ECMO system and can see various pieces. But for the purposes of really cementing your understanding and being able to navigate the technical, cognitive, and behavioral aspects of running through ECMO emergencies, we're really looking for immersive. We're looking for, have you been the one that has been in a scenario and had to navigate those emergencies? So just a piece of differentiation on that simulation component. The important part is that we are navigating all this to get you ready for the exam. And I'll share a little bit more here about our exam itself. But what we want you to look at is this piece is the testing experience, as well as system requirements and etiquette during the exam. So you've submitted all 3 documents, they will be reviewed. And the hopeful intent is that we'll get everything through so that you can pass on to the next phase, which will be testing. This really does outline number 1, important system requirements. So we have partnered with a company called ExamSoft. They are our software solution to allow us to let anyone around the globe take the test anywhere. The software leverages artificial intelligence. So as long as you have a computer and you have a camera and your computer hardware meets some of these basic system requirements, you are able to take that exam. But again, we recommend that you go in prior to purchasing the exam to make sure that you have the right hardware to be able to take that exam in there. Some testing environment rules. So I don't have the ability to scroll in here, but of note, because we leverage artificial intelligence, what happens when you are being tested is that your camera does some recording to make sure that we're able to maintain the security and the integrity of our test. And so it is asking that only one person in the room as you are testing. It is asking that you are not using any other communication devices to perhaps look up and see what answers might be to a test. And so it's really just some basic environmental rules to make sure that you are taking the test and being able to do so in an honest fashion. Self-explanatory things it's in here, as well as there's information on our website that helps if you have some concerns about system requirements. I think the biggest beauty in this one is you don't have to find a testing site, you don't have to find a proctor. Because of this great partnership with ExamSoft, we're able to let you take the exam truly in the comfort of your home, so you wish, but allows you to take it at any time and at any place. So once you've stepped through, if we started off in the beginning, there's a 12-step process, and I hope as you see me fly through these that you recognize that it really is not a cumbersome process. However, at each one of those next phases of being able to advance, the system is looking for some elements in there. And what you see here is that when I was stepping through, I did not have some pieces met. So if I didn't remember to upload the didactic content or the sim content or the bedside, it's going to stop me and it will not allow an advancement to move forward to submit. So it's going to tell you what you missed and where you may need to go back to. However, if you got all those in and you successfully uploaded all the materials that you needed to, you can go ahead, and this is called application submission. Again, it's called begin test because we're looking then for the next phase, which is, yes, I would like to move forward and submit my application. What I would say is we can go ahead, if you need more time, you can click I need more time, and that will allow an ability to pause at that point and save for later, or you can say, yep, I'm ready to submit. And at the bottom, you say submit test completed. Once you have finished, your application has been submitted, then you should see that your application has passed, meaning that you've passed all the steps required to go ahead and get that submitted. And the other piece that then that it has made it on to the next phase is that you should be then also receiving an email that states, yep, we received your application. Please give us a little bit of time, but we have been able to receive it on our end. As well, it gives you the email contact for who to interact with should you have any questions around your status. So I'm going to round out the last two slides here, talking a little bit more about the exam, and then I see from some of the questions coming up that I may have some questions to answer here. So I'll ask my team to help kind of navigate some of those. So what we have in here is our Truly exam. So you've submitted all your paperwork. You will be getting your communications from us. Myself, Alex Fox, Elaine Cooley, all have been names that you maybe have been seeing emails from if you've started the process of application, but from one of our ELSO emails that will be sharing with you kind of the next phases. So once you've submitted all three and everything is a success, you'll be receiving that congratulations email and you're ready to pick your test date. How we have it arranged right now is that the third Tuesday of every month, we have a testing window opening. And when I say a testing window opening, that you're able to start downloading your test on that third Tuesday, and it's open for a 2-week period of time. In terms of when you have to test in that 2-week, that is completely up to you. The only limitation you have in that is that once you start your exam, you have 3 hours to complete is the max time to do so. So my strong recommendation is that you're intentional about when you're going to take the exam and do so without having other competing interests. I say that, knowing that the folks taking this are clinicians, it's probably not a good idea to take it when you are covering a pump shift or clinical care with the risk of getting pulled away. I'm sharing a little bit of an overview of how we arrived at this knowledge assessment, this exam. So this is the work that has largely been driven by Dr. Janelle Badrilak, who I have graciously borrowed the slide from because I think she did a great job of really describing the multi-step process. Phase one in that step one, again, I will impress upon the importance of ensuring that you've taken a didactic course that covers the learning objectives that I shared with you, the 80 various learning objectives, because the exam was written based on those learning objectives. So the team of writers, which is a multidisciplinary team, took those learning objectives and started to write multiple choice questions from there. Once we had a critical mass of those multiple choice questions, the exam blueprint was created. And then it went through several phases of expert review, editing, copy editing, and then we were able to move on to phase 4, which was piloting the exam. Based on perusing some of the names on here, I recognize some of you who helped us with some of our piloting phase, that you saw, that group that went through the pilot saw a subsection of the questions. So nobody yet has seen all the questions in aggregate. They were able to get exposure, and that pilot was really trying to help us make sure that the test questions performed well. And what it ended up doing is bubbling up to where we are today with 120 multiple choice questions that are our comprehensive ELSO certification exam that you would be sitting for in there. So as I shared, and I think is a real strength of this exam and why those that are part of the ECMO team should be so excited is, this really that development team that helped to craft, create, and execute this exam was a very large, I say 44 person, but my bet is there's far more people that crept into this process as we evolved, but it was interprofessional and it was global. So we were able to really look at all range and aspects of how ECMO is done internationally and kind of synthesize that down into an exam that I hope you all enjoy. It seems odd to say enjoy an exam, but it's been a true pleasure to be part of the development team and watch this evolve over the years, and a dream come true to finally be releasing it out into the ECMO community to be able to partake in. So with that, forgive me as I'm going to try to figure out which questions here are those to try to address most promptly in here. And I don't know if Bishoy is still on, if there's anything that he saw that he wants to comment on in questions here.
Yeah, there was a couple of questions that we've addressed, but a common theme is whether this exam is appropriate for just physicians or nurses or other trained disciplines. And we just like to iterate that the target audience here is what we call the ECMO practitioner, which is anyone who is responsible for clinical care of the ECMO patient. That was the target from early on. The curriculum itself was developed with that in mind, in order to define the minimal competency in terms of both knowledge and skills to take care of the ECMO patient, again, irrespective of discipline. And so since the curriculum was developed that way, the certification exam is also targeting that same curriculum and targeting that same audience. So the certification is for any ECMO practitioner.
Great, thank you for that clarification. I think it's an important one. That's why I hope to continue to stress that the exam writers were a multidisciplinary team. So this was written by all the groups that Bishoy just mentioned to make sure that when all the questions came together, that it made sense. I also saw some questions in there about a simulation course coming up in April, and questions of when next courses will come. So we are in the works of fall having some more ECMO simulation courses, as well as returning to comprehensive simulation-based training by November. So we will definitely have some more courses available for you all to participate in. So should you choose to jump into some of those ELSO courses. Anything else from the team that I am missing as I'm trying to frantically write or read through questions? So there's a question around, do we have a list of the ELSO endorsed courses? Those will be on our website. The pandemic, like it messed up so many things, we were not able to do surveys for the last couple of years of endorsements because travel was near impossible, but we will be listing endorsed courses. And I think if you look on our website today, the header says education, and as you go on to it, it says ELSO, ELSO and ELSO endorsed courses. So they would be listed there for any of those activities. Will the ELSO Red Book and Training Manual cover most of the questions? So I think, Alex, thank you. I see you jumped on there and navigated that. And I think that I agree that the Red Book and Training Manual should cover many of the questions. Although for those that don't know, we have a 6th edition of the Red Book coming. And so just like everything else in medical practice, things evolve very quickly. And so, you know, my biggest recommendation in there is to really, again, look at the learning objectives that we have available and look for opportunities to make sure that you have read up on the most current literature in those topics. ELSO Foundations course is completely mapped and covers all those pieces as well. So the online course that we have available is the best location I can give you, is almost a prep course for the exam that covers all those. Still looking through exam fee. Our exam fee is $300 US, which I think for most of practitioners who've gone through certification recognize very on par with what you would see for most certifications. Also, sorry, reading as fast as possible through these questions. And again, Bishoy, if there's any others that popped out to you that you thought were helpful.
There's been a couple of questions about pediatric and neonatal ECMO. So this exam is actually, the curriculum was designed for the adult ECMO population and practitioner. So that is the focus, both in terms of the criteria to sit the exam as well as the certification itself. However, if there is, it sounds like there's significant interest. So this is something that we're looking for down the line with the hopes that we increase our course and then subsequently develop a curriculum and certification for PEDS Neo and ECMO as well.
Also, just as piece for this recording today. So this will be available as well on our website. So if people had to drop off or people have additional questions, we will have this link available so that you're able to rewatch. I know we had large interest and timing is always a struggle with around the world time zones. So this will be available for others to refer back to. How long is certification valid? Do I need to retake it? We are looking at a 3-year certification process for this. A lot of discussions around grandfathering. So again, I think that your experience can be very easily explained, and there's definitely some opportunity to in the bedside experience to explain your wealth of experience that you have in there. You know, the piece that we've struggled with in there is everyone had to learn about ECMO from somewhere. And so that's, to some extent, we're trying to learn a little bit more about how education existed, but whatever type of training you took years ago, that's why we're asking you to submit and share with us a little bit more about your experience. And we can work with you individually to try to figure out if that background will set you up for success on the exam.
Liz, there's a question here I'd just like to address.
Please.
It feels like the non-ELSO education / SIM criteria is designed to be so complex that we give up taking an ELSO course. I apologize if it feels that way. We are trying very hard to be able to partner with other courses and have them be a pathway to the ELSO certification. The challenge, of course, is to make sure that these courses are of sufficiently high quality in that they meet the curricular requirements and that the simulation is run in a high fidelity form as well. And obviously a process like that where we need to go and evaluate the course to provide endorsement does take time. And so we recognize the limitations of that, and that it will take time to achieve that. And so we are trying very hard to be able to offer, if you've taken courses elsewhere, to evaluate that course rapidly by looking at the curricular covering and try and make a determination if it's sufficient to meet the requirement for certification.
Yeah, agree. Thank you for addressing that one, Bishoy. I think the important part about, there's a lot of value in, and we're not insinuating that ELSO is your only place that you can go to education. I think the important piece in that is just making sure that we receive that's where I walk through the learning objectives of the course that you went to, the agenda the topics that were covered, any information that you can provide us so that we can really navigate to ensure that they met those vital pieces to ensure success for the exam. So that's the key piece of it, is just making sure that you pull the information that you received from that course that you went to. The other pieces, the question around the data for hours or logs or ECMO case needed for the attestation letter. What I would use is just as a template that we're asking and speak to, what did your proctoring look like when you were learning ECMO? How much bedside experience did you get on a routine basis? And what's the totality of the volume you treat? It really is open that as long as you're covering those key elements and that you have covered those pieces, it doesn't have to be a set piece. I have seen, again, as some of the best practices, it looks like there's some programs that do a really good job of logging hours or patients. And so we've seen evidence of a total number of hours that would be more towards a specialist. Or I've seen from a program that for a physician that they shared what the yearly volume looks like, what their coverage is of the ICUs that would have exposure to that patient. That really just helped us say yes very easily. That person satisfied the requirements. All right. I really appreciate it's so wonderful to see such a large group on here contributing, over 100 in attendance. So tells me that we will hopefully be seeing more applications flying in, and really appreciate your questions today. I would say that as I'm surveying through, trying to navigate, making sure I have hit all those. If there's something specific to you that as you digest all this and try to figure out whether or not you've met that criteria, that ECMO training at elso.org is a great way to fire away those questions. Passing score I see is flashing in front of me. Right now, part of those is the testing methodology is we envision a 70% or higher would be a passing grade. Some mechanics around too when you take the test. For any questions that you do miss on the exam, you will have an immediate notification piece of what questions did I miss, and then a rationale to the appropriate answer for the question that you missed. So the nice part is that you will have some immediate feedback to how you performed in terms of you'll be able to see any of the questions that you had missed for the exam. So once again, the learning objectives, I think because of a lot of the questions stemming around making sure that that the didactic material all is covered. So those learning objectives, again, are found once you get into the application. It's right in the didactic attestation, as well as on our website when you navigate through that, you're able to see those 80 learning objectives that we're looking for. Pardon me as I'm scrolling through. All right. I think I've hit any of the open questions that my team are pointing at me. I'm not seeing any more open questions here. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. It was great being able to walk through and share with you all a little bit more about our certification exam, show you the application process. I would highly encourage you that start gathering those materials and start uploading as you go. You don't feel like please don't feel like there's a time constraint to once you start it, that it has to be completed overnight. You can just get in, and those pieces that you know for sure you have completed, go in and start those steps. As you saw in there, if you need additional time, there's an ability to ask for additional time, and it won't cause any of that material to be lost. That's the beauty of doing it through our ELSO Academy system, is that, you know, really all your training needs and everything that you've encapsulated should be in there, and you'll be able to go back and refer to those. All right. Well, thank you again. It was great being able to share this with you, and please feel free to reach out via our email listed here, or any other elements that we can help you with. Thank you all.